and welcome to Creating a Life You Love with Adriana, where we talk about how to create a healthy lifestyle centered on the Lord. If you don't know me already, my name is Adriana, and I enjoy talking about a range of different things, but they all fall under one category, which is the Lord and how to build a life centered around Him. But yeah, we talk about relationships, breakups, how to heal from past wounds. We talk about your emotions and how to deal with difficult people, how to deal with conflict. Yeah, just so many things. And I also like sharing from my own experience. So, this podcast isn't me just like throwing a bunch of like educational content or things that I've like read, but instead it's things that I've actually found useful in my life. And yeah, I've been talking a lot about different, oh, there's a hair stuck in my lip gloss. Don't you just hate that? Okay, anyway, there have been quite a few episodes that I have recorded on spiritual disciplines, on things like prayer, fasting, all the things. So if you're new to your relationship with God, I definitely recommend checking that out. If you haven't already gathered by now, I am a Christian. I follow Jesus, and I love to talk about how to um, just glorify Him and how to, yes, create a life that you love. That's not to be in a selfish term, but instead it's to create a life that you deeply cherish and value because the Lord is in it, but not you that's something that you love because you're getting everything you want. With that being said, we definitely don't get everything we want, and sometimes that can cause the issue of comparison. And so that's what I'm going to kind of talk about today, that and something else, because I have been kind of experiencing just this kind of battle within myself, um, and my thought life. And I have experienced for a long time and currently grass is greener syndrome. I always tend to think, oh, it's better over there. And so, what I've been noticing lately is that when I'm alone, I wanna be with friends. When I'm with friends, I wanna be alone. When I am reading, I wanna be journaling. When I'm journaling, I wanna be reading. When I eat something like, a really good bowl of pasta, I wanna be having a salad. When I have salad, I want pasta. It's just I want everything that I'm not currently getting. And then I get that thing, and then I don't want it anymore. And that's really caused a big issue because I'm never happy. No, I am happy. I have joy, but I know that this is a problem and I want to bring it to you guys because I've shared about this in the past. And there's been times where I've done better with it. There's been times that I go in and out, right? But lately, the comparison and the grass is greener syndrome has really tried to just scurry its way in my mind and stay there. And that's what I would kind of call spiritual warfare because the enemy is trying to get me farther and farther away from the Lord, and more unsettled with my life and more ungrateful. So, we're going to talk about that today. And I also wanted to talk about one other thing, that the enemy has been using to kind of make me feel ungrateful. I guess this whole podcast will be about the downfalls of comparison and idealizing something that you don't have, whether it's something that someone else has or something that you did have, which in other terms, nostalgia. So, yeah, just to kind of like start off with, if you are going through a breakup now, which I know many of you are, it's why you're here because my whole story with my husband, we, went from breaking up to getting married, is kind of what brought you to this podcast. So I know a lot of new faces are looking for me to talk about breakups. And guess what? Everything I talk about indirectly relates to breakups or relationships in some capacity. And maybe you are experiencing this comparison with my life, with other people's lives that you see on social media, where they have a really good relationship and you don't, and you are jealous of that and you are envious of that. Now, listen, it doesn't all change when you get in a relationship because I had comparison and I always wanted to have a really healthy relationship. I wanted to have the marriage that I have now. when I was younger. I always thought about that. I always thought about getting married young and all the things. And then I got that and I found myself living in the past and almost nostalgia. The enemy is using this nostalgia of what my past was to make me believe that I should be there instead. And that's not good because I don't want to be there. But these thoughts will come up in my mind and they replay and they replay and they replay and they just don't let up. They do, but I'm being dramatic here. So, anyway, but yeah, so maybe you are looking at someone's Instagram and you're just comparing the fact that you don't have a relationship and they do. And the first thing that I'd like to say to this, because this is something that I remind myself, not everything is what it seems, especially on social media and even in person. People ask me how marriage is going, right? And I say, do you want the short answer? Or do you want the long answer? No, just kidding. But what I do say usually is when I was single, your emotions, your life is kind of like this. Bloop, 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 it's like that. If you're watching right now, I'm putting my hand in a straight line and then I'm making little points go up and little points go down. Now, when you get married or are in a relationship, the way in which you experience emotions goes like this. Like, if you're listening again, you have these, huge ups and these huge downs. And I believe God has designed relationships to help us experience emotions in a deeper way. And I think that's beautiful. It's also really hard, but it's beautiful. And so that's how marriage is going. And so the reason why I want to say this is because I had this idealized picture of what everyone else who was married, who was in a good relationship, how their life was. And of course, everyone has different experiences. But now, once I got in a relationship, I realized it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. You need the Lord. Like, it is not for the weak. Well, we are weak and then the Lord makes us strong. Um and so if you are comparing your life to mine, you are seeing me with my husband after we went from breaking up to getting married. I just want to tell you, I still compare my life to other people's. So it's not about once you finally get the thing that you want, you won't compare anymore. If you are comparing now, you are going to compare then. And that's what I'm trying to say. I compared my life to other people's before when I was single, and I compare my life now. And something that I have to catch myself, the first thing I usually will tell myself is not everything is what it seems, Adriana. So you're seeing this on social media, you don't know what's actually happening behind the scenes. So don't wish that you were in someone else's shoes. Now, if someone really is having a healthy relationship or someone really does have what you want and it's actually real and it's not just all pretend, you can't really use the thing, not everything is what it seems. Like, this is a good thing. What I would say to this is we need to be so trusting in the Lord and have so much faith in the Lord, knowing that He wouldn't withhold a good gift from us. It actually says that somewhere in the scripture, and I am going to look it up. Yes, 84, Psalm 84:11. I know there's other scriptures where it talks about this, but it says in Psalm 84:11, "For the Lord God is a sun and shield. The Lord bestows favor and honor. No good thing does he withhold from those who walk uprightly." So if you are actively pursuing the Lord, you want to do what is good. You have faith, but you're still not getting what you want. Have hope that the Lord is not withholding a good thing from you. If you think that a relationship is going to make you happy, maybe the Lord sees, oh, wait, she needs to work on this, this, and this before she gets in a relationship, or it is going to crash and burn. Maybe you want this career and you see someone else has it. But the Lord knows that you need to learn a few strategies, or else you're going to get into that and be miserable. And so, my point in saying this is we need to develop this trust, understanding that the Lord is a good God. He is not withholding anything good from us, even if we believe it to be. Um, when we were, younger, and we were really craving to have something sweet instead of to eat our dinner. Our parents, most likely, would say, no, you have to eat your food first and then you'll get that sweet thing. Now, maybe you're thinking, like, oh, they're withholding something good from me. I mean, you're probably not thinking that when you're like 2 years old, but that's, what we think about now. Like, oh, the Lord is withholding this good thing from me. When really, if our parents gave us sugar every single time we wanted it, we would literally be a wreck and we would be bouncing off the walls and we would be malnourished and all the things. Our brain wouldn't be able to function. And so, even though we, in our small childlike minds, who couldn't see the full picture, thought that our parents were withholding something good from us, they really weren't. And so, it's similar with God. And that's kind of what I like to remind myself of, like, who am I to think that the Lord is withholding something good? I don't even know what's good for me, you know? Like, I don't even know what's good. So that's just something to ponder. At the end of Psalm 84:11, it says in verse 12, O Lord of hosts, blessed is the one who trusts in you. And I wasn't even planning on saying that, but just think about it. Blessed is the one who trusts in you. If we put our trust in Lord, it literally says blessed. You will be blessed, you know? And of course, we see in the Psalms David goes up and down with his faith. But he always comes back to trust and he always comes back to the Lord. But yeah, the grass is greener syndrome, it's really no joke. The comparison makes you so ungrateful for your life that you start to almost resent God and feel like He is withholding something good from you. And so I would just encourage you, that is not the case. Read more about God's character. You can, ask ChatGPT or look up online like verses about God's character and just read that out to yourself. Maybe you don't have a good relationship with, your first caretaker, your parents, whoever it was, and that kind of set you up to view God as this person, as this being that doesn't want anything good for you. It can go back to how you were trained to view the people who took care of you, and you can view God the same way. So that's another thing. But yeah, I really feel like the enemy uses comparison to make us feel so dissatisfied in life, and it just makes you feel so resentful towards God, even. Um, yeah. And so, another thing, not just even talking about comparing yourself to other people, but something that I've experienced is comparing myself to my past. And not in a way of like, oh, I was like so good back then and now I've gone downhill and oh man, but in a way of like, oh, I had so much more like joy back then. Like I was so happy and go lucky and everything was great like when I look back at pictures. And then I realized, wait, no, I was literally so depressed, but I was so numb that I wasn't journaling about it. I don't have record of that, but I know I was unhappy when I really, really think about it. And so something that I also realized was I had a very quick kind of transition from living in sin. What I mean by this, let me kind of go back. In 2022, 2021, I started really diving deeper with the Lord. I think it was 2021. And I started reading my Bible, going to church, all the things, but I had a surface level relationship with God still. Yes, I was reading his word. I knew kind of what he said, but I wasn't applying it to my life because I didn't know how to apply it to my life. And so fast forward 2023, I had all this push down trauma and wounds and all of these things that were making me so unhappy. And instead of dealing with them because I didn't know how to deal with them, I was seeking attention from guys for validation. I was doing unwise things. I was leading people on and then getting my heart strung along as well. And it just was not good. And so there was a time where I was even living in sin, just with the lustful thoughts and passions and all of these things. And it was kind of tearing me away from God. And then all of a sudden, that just stopped. When I went through a breakup at the end of 2023 with my now husband, I surrendered everything. And it was just so quick that I almost didn't have time to process it. It was like living, like believing in God, like knowing what he says, not knowing how to live it. And then all of a sudden, just stop. Everything changed. My whole life changed. And so, what I've noticed is I think because I had such a quick transition of jumping out of sin, I still sin. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but there were things that I was like actively doing that was hurting me and other people. Like I said, mostly just getting involved with guys and not protecting my heart, not protecting their heart, all the things. So, anyway, now I look back at the past. I have nostalgia for my past because I didn't fully process it. And so now instead of thinking so now I just look back at the past and I'm like, "Oh, remember when I did this? Remember did I when I did that?" And I think it's coming back to me now because I don't think I fully processed everything that went on and fully, I don't know, dealt with it. And so now what's happening is, I'll have these triggers that remind me of my past. But because I look at my past through these rose-colored glasses, because I didn't journal at that time, I didn't really understand what I was actually feeling. I think that I was better than I was now. And I think about the moments that I didn't have conviction, the moments that I could just do whatever I wanted and I didn't feel bad about it. Maybe later on I felt bad about it, but I didn't know why I felt bad. And so I started idealizing the past, and the enemy actually used nostalgia to try to think that I was better off without a relationship with God. Not saying that I was better off without believing in God, but just I think the enemy is trying to say you were better off without following God as a disciple. This is actually something that I just popped up on my feed the other day, where this man talks about how he um, thought that he was a woman and he was living life as a girl throughout his youth and his teen years. And, then the Lord really showed up in his life and showed him who is I that showed him that his identity was in the Lord and that he was doing this to seek approval from other people. And, I don't know the full story, so don't quote me on this, but I know his uh Instagram is Niza Powers, I believe his name is Niza. Anyway, he came up on my Instagram, very inspirational. And he was talking about how he was watching this the Victoria's Secret show. It came up and I guess he was watching that and it made him think about how he used to go shopping at Victoria's Secret when he was living as a woman, and he used to have fun with his friends with makeup and do all these things that women do, and nostalgia was starting to come up and tempt him into his old lifestyle. But really, what nostalgia makes you think is that the grass is greener. The grass is greener when you were back there. But really, when you were back there, you were hating life. And so the grass is greener syndrome can apply to other people, but it can also apply to your past. It can also apply to your future. Oh, I'm going to be better when I get in a relationship. Or, oh, when I was in that relationship, I was so much better. Even though you were in a toxic relationship and you were hating every minute of it, but you look back through rose colored glasses and you're like, oh, it was great. Yeah, isn't that crazy? It's just crazy how our brain can try to trick us and how the enemy really, really uses comparison to pull us out of where we're meant to be. So yeah, I bring this up in hopes that you can recognize you are where you are meant to be right now. Well, maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't say that because maybe you're really struggling or you're living through sin, whatever it may be. But I believe if you are pursuing the Lord and you have faith in Him, He will bring you to where you need to be. And the only thing that comparison does is take us out of the present. And so I really think that for my life, I need to learn to be content with God's timing. And also, I think journaling is just so wonderful because you can understand where you were at every point in time. Even if you just journal like once a week about how you're feeling, you can look back not through rose colored glasses, but you can truly understand how you felt. It's just so powerful that I've looked back so many times and forgotten so many different things. And then I look at my journal and I'm like, wow, I'm so grateful I wrote that down. Like the Lord answered this prayer, He did this. And I wouldn't even have remembered if I didn't write it down. Um, but yeah, I just think that Like I said, comparison and nostalgia, these are very subtle spiritual attacks. They're very tiny. Like it creeps in so easily. It can be like, "Oh, I remember, I'm out with a friend right now getting ice cream. I remember when I was dating so and so and we would get ice cream. Oh, I miss those days." When really you were it was not a good relationship for you, you know? And so I just think we need to really notice any envy for other people, any idealization in thinking about your future or your past, and just kind of pause and ask the Lord, like, "Hey, Lord, am I thinking about this correctly? Can you please give me wisdom to see where I need to be?" Like, maybe, yeah, maybe I need to be somewhere else right now. Maybe I'm not living out wh- the exact thing that I need to be doing. Help me to get there, but also help me to not see the future as the only place I can be happy. Like you can be content. You can be content where you are even if you're not living out the exact career you want. Even if you're in between jobs. Like you can have this contentmentness of patience. And I know this because I have experienced it before, but like I said right now, I'm still a little bit struggling with the comparison and this nostalgia. But honestly, like it was super subtle for me. It would come up in really small ways. Um and it's been coming up through my whole life, but I feel like now is really when I noticed like, ooh, comparison is a problem. And I think when I was, I think I recorded a podcast actually on comparison. Comparison is the thief of joy. It's probably one of my first podcast episodes, and I talked about in that episode how I would compare my looks to other women online. And although that's still something that I could do, and I don't think it's something that I necessarily struggle with now. It's more the nostalgia that I struggle with, or the comparison of relationships, or seeing that someone has it all together and being envious of that. Um, but when I talked about comparison as a thief of joy a few years back when I first started this podcast, maybe it was like 2 years, I talked about comparing your looks to other people, and I talked a lot about Photoshop and how people can make things look completely different online. And then I also talked about how everyone's bodies are completely different. Even if you ate the same way, did the same things, you would still be different. And so, of course, be healthy, move your body. I think it's important to take care of your body, but I don't think that we should be so obsessed with our looks that we're comparing every single detail of like, oh, my lips aren't as big as hers, my eyes need to be bigger, my eyelashes could be longer, like, you know? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, if looks is something that you struggle with, your appearance, all of the advice that I said, it still holds true. And I would just say that prayer is going to be your friend in this. I have had to pray, like, Lord, please help me to be content in this moment. And if you want me to be somewhere else, point that out to me as well, but not in a way that I'm envious of other people and comparing myself to other people. You could just as well be envious of someone else because you deep down know they are living out their calling and you are not. You're too scared to do this thing, but the Lord wants you to do it. And so, yes, he can use the comparison to bring you to where you need to be. But I don't think that we should live in this constant envious states and comparison. I think that ultimately we should have this emotion just wash over us like a wave. Like, oh, I'm comparing myself. You know what? Let me see what that is about. Is the Lord actually calling me to be where that person is? Or am I just thinking that my life will be better because I'm trying to escape my current reality? You know? Anyway, with all this being said, I really hope that this could provide some insight for you, that this could help at all. I know that sometimes this can just be nice to like talk back and forth. Well, we're not talking back and forth. Um, to talk to you guys, it kind of feels like I'm on FaceTime with a friend, but she's not answering. So, if you do want to answer and you have anything you want to say to this, please let me know in the comments. I would love to say hello, and if you also resonate with this, let me know. I like to share what I'm dealing with sometimes because I feel like, if I'm constantly talking about, oh, like I've overcame this, I did that, it can kind of feel like I don't have any problems now. And there are things that I struggle with now. So I wanted to bring that to you. And even last week, I talked about the things that I kind of recognized and was struggling through. And so today, I just wanted to kind of point out that grass is greener syndrome. We got to let her go. Just gotta let her go, the comparison. We can't have her anymore. Anyway, I think I'm done now. I'm saying the same things over and over again, but it's because it's so important. And I feel that I just need to keep telling myself that. And I need to keep telling you guys that. And then maybe you can tell your friends this. Anyway, with all that being said, if you liked this episode, make sure to like the podcast. If you are on YouTube, follow the podcast. If you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to this podcast, and follow for more. And I will see you for another episode of Creating a Life You Love with Adriana. But until then, I hope we can continue creating a life we love and a life centered on the Lord. All right. Bye bye.